the reason for it being so rich and decadent is because it relates to self-soothing. In the African American community, there has been, they feel hostility. They feel hostility whenever they go out. They constantly feel like this racism all around. And a little piece of peace, really, a little piece of joy is what they eat. Like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I've had to go out and I had to do all of these kinds of things all day that feel aggressive to me, that feel hostile to me, feels a certain way, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to self-soothe with food.
Brooke, so nice to have you here. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Good, I'm good. Great.
Great. Yeah, great to speak to you. So tell me all about the vegan soul food community. Start from wherever you want. Tell us all about it.
Okay, well, about 4 years ago, I got an idea to create a group on Facebook that was just about vegan food, not about health, not about politics, just about how to prepare plant-based meals, 100% plant-based meals. And it took off. It took off. And right now we're at about, I think, 470,000. But from there, I've made 4 cookbooks. Our Instagram community is big and thriving at about 130,000. We have a great mailing list, and it's just taken off. It's really just about veganizing our traditional soul food. So soul food is traditional in the Black American homes. It stemmed from slavery, and a lot of the traditional soul food is unhealthy. It's laced with high saturated foods and low fiber. And so we really just wanted to veganize that. So whereas regular soul food may use milk fat, which is really bad, clogging up your arteries and all of that, we'll use nuts, which is monounsaturated fats, which are actually good for your cholesterol, things like that. So that's basically what we've done, is veganize traditional soul food, and I'm amazed at how it's taken off. But then I'm not, because in America, I think the number is about 4%, or it's gone down now. 4% of the general population calls themselves vegan or plant-based. But in the African American community, it's 8%. So it makes a lot of sense that it took off. And our group is not 100% African American, and my community is not 100%, but I would say about 85 to 90%.
Amazing. And I'd love to get into the how you built the group, some more information about it, but what was your personal journey into this? I imagine you haven't always been plant-based your whole life, so how did you kind of get into it?
Well, my grandmother was vegetarian for 50 years, but I wasn't. My mother had, we had times where maybe we were vegetarian for a few months or a year or so. And then when I went to college, about 30 plus years ago, 31 years ago, I decided to become vegetarian. And so since that time, I've either been vegetarian, 100% plant-based, raw plant-based, or pescatarian. So that's my journey. I can remember when we were mixing milks from, vegan milks from powder, and we would have to buy huge cases at a time at the health food store. Now you can go into the store. It's like a whole wall of vegan milks. You have to decide what do you want, because there's everything.
It's like a different world, and it seems like, I'm sure it's the same in the US, and it certainly has been the case in the UK and in Dubai where I am. It's in such a short space of time, the options are just seemingly endless, from really having to search it out and really have to work hard. I think that's one of the big problems we have to solve, is convenience, making it convenient for people, but also making it something that's normal, that people see on the shelves and they recognize it. And the more you see something, the more normal it becomes, and then people don't feel so bad about doing something that was weird kind of at one time. And
I think it's a lot less weird these days, which I'm thankful for.
Definitely.
And as long as we, I feel like, to me, the most important thing to make the movement bigger and bigger and bigger is tasty food. Convenience, like you said, is a very important thing, and it needs to taste good, because people don't want to sacrifice their taste buds for something that feels abstract to them. I mean, we have terrible things that are happening in the environment,
Yeah.
earthquakes and just everything, fires, but it surprisingly, it still feels abstract to people. Like they haven't connected the dots that things like raising animals is contributing largely to this, environmental problem. Like, or even if they have a health problem, like, and if it's not happening right now, until it's like a real big health scare, I don't need to eat plant based. So they're not willing to sacrifice their taste buds and what's convenient for them and what feels good to them right now, just because for something that's abstract. So therefore, I feel like if we make it really tasty, make it delicious, make it look tantalizing, then they're willing to say, hey, well, maybe I can do this right now instead of waiting till I'm, till it's a dire situation.
Yeah, and I think to enable us to do that, we need community, right? And I think this is what the internet is so good at bringing, is that 100 years ago, if you had a certain belief or you're interested in a certain topic, but you were geographically restricted, let's say, to a small place, you couldn't find anyone else that was interested, it would be difficult to pursue that passion or that, that direction. But with social media, with the ability to connect with people all over the world, we're having this conversation now from so super far away. It makes that possible, and indeed that's what you've been able to achieve with the group that you've built. So I'd love to hear more about how that group is built, some of the things that you learn in building the group out, because I think it's one of the most powerful things that people can do is with this lifestyle, when they learn something, is to go and share it with others and help to build community around it. So yeah, it'd be great to hear kind of how you were able to do it.
The biggest thing that I did with that group, and it was hard at first, was to make a rule. Number one rule is to keep it encouraging, because a lot of vegans and who do it for animals or for health, they I don't know, maybe they feel combative because of the whole world is just eating meat, and so they want to fight. They come into spaces, lots of spaces, and that's really what caused me. That's what caused me to start the group in the first place. I wanted to keep it a safe space, a transitioning space, an encouraging space. So, are any slights, any vegan policing, any food policing, we would, immediately keep that out, like gone. Like in the beginning, we would throw people out, but now we just throw out comments, and it has to be really egregious to throw out people. But when we were forming the idea in the community and making this a space, we really had to, chop heads to keep to for people to understand what we were about. And I think a lot of people now understand. If they see any negativity, you'll see the members say, hey, you don't want to say that in this group, because we come in right away and swipe it away. So that was like one of the major things, is no food policing, no vegan policing. So if someone puts something up and it has honey in it and they're new and they're transitioning, just report it to admin and we'll take it down. It just was really important to keep it encouraging. And I think that that's really what built the community, because you want people to be able to share what they've created, what they're learning, how they've applied the techniques, because I would go on live every week and talk to them about all different kinds of ways to cook and the things they should buy and all these kinds of things. And so then, and that's still, it's a huge library still in the group. People hardly know it, because it changes. The group changes about every 6 months. It changes. So people don't even know about the videos that I did a few years ago. But in order to keep members sharing and innovative and feeling safe to share, it was so important to keep it all encouraging and to eliminate any negativity.
Yeah, I think it's super important, and it's something that you see a lot in the plant-based or the vegan community, is people feel like they own the space themselves, and it's almost like get defensive of it, whereas actually what we need is it to be more open for more people to join, and that's how we really promote change, is we make it open, and if people make mistakes or if people are kind of dipping their toe in trying to figure it out, we have to be encouraging, and we want to we're constantly battling the stigma of kind of the preachy or the difficult kind of the vegan, right, which has been, you could say, kind of hasn't helped things. And with your angle, which I love, and I spent a lot of time in the US, and a lot of friends that will cook, as you call it, soul food. And before I was vegan, and I think it's important and to really honor those kind of that cultural heritage when it comes to kind of culinary preferences. How have you managed to kind of honor that tradition while promoting it as a plant-based lifestyle? How have you been able to kind of merge the two? What kind of substitutes and things have you kind of used?
Well, one of the things that's so important that relates to soul food, the reason for it being so rich and decadent is because it relates to self-soothing.
Mm.
So, in the African American community, there has been, they feel hostility. They feel hostility whenever they go out. They constantly feel like this racism all around. And a little piece of peace, really, a little piece of joy is what they eat. Like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I've had to go out and I had to do all of these kinds of things all day that feel aggressive to me, that feel hostile to me, microaggressions, whatever. It feels a certain way, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to self-soothe with food. And this is a reason why so many African American women are overweight, because they're self-soothing with their food.
Mm.
So I didn't want to take away that idea of self-soothing, because until racism goes away, self-soothing can't go away, because everybody's not going to go see a therapist and figure out healthy ways to deal with stress.
Sure.
So I didn't want to take away the self-soothing, because I don't think we're there yet. Maybe in 100 years, hopefully, we'll get there. But I did want to change what the women and what the people were self-soothing with. So that was so important to me. So it has to still, in my opinion, if you want to veganize soul food, it still needs to be fried. It still needs to be saucy. So I have like a whole cookbook that's about sauces and dressings and gravy, because you still want to have that, but you don't have to have the animal fat. You can just make gravy with just flour and water and a little olive oil or regular oil, and you have a nice decadent gravy, as long as you're seasoning it up with things like garlic and onions, and the same thing with greens. Like the greens are a big thing in the African American community, and they're usually laced with like some kind of smoked meat that has the nitrates. It might be pork meat, and then they have moved on and said, okay, we'll try turkey, which is a little healthier. And I'm saying, let's push it even further and let's just go with garlic, peppers, olive oil. If you want, you can use a little liquid smoke, but let's use our vegetables to season bigger vegetables. And it really tastes amazing.
It sounds delicious when you describe it, right? But this is where the flavor comes from. It comes from those plants, those herbs, those spices.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you say, it's about, I think, making it as seemingly as little change as possible for people, right? It's a big jump to go from, like, for example, a spaghetti bolognese, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
to a Buddha bowl. But to go from a spaghetti bolognese to like a plant-based version of that dish is a much easier transition for people. They don't feel like they're making the same sacrifice, I think, for a lot of people. What are the I guess the particular challenges as it relates to plant-based food and perhaps the vegan community when it comes to the Black and African American community? What are the particular challenges that they might face?
Well, what you find more often when you're looking at the African American community, of course, we talked about the self-soothing, but there's
Mm.
also an undercurrent of just really not trusting the system.
Yeah.
So they're very big on reading labels. The African American community is really moving towards the whole food uh, option of plant-based.
Yeah.
So of course we don't food police in our group, and we definitely encourage you to be where you are. So if you're using the plant-based, processed foods, I'm okay with that. I use that in my own, life, in my own kitchen. So, and they're in my cookbooks as well. I have nothing against them. There are movements though. There are lots of people who have a lot against that. You'll find that in the comments. They're very big on wanting to go with the whole food options. And so it's also a challenge because, when you're in social media, there's also going to be a lot of people who want to sell things.
Yeah.
So they demonize food and make it more of an issue than it really is. Because, so for instance, I have been eating soy for over 30 years, like as a main protein. I eat a lot of soy as a main protein because I've been vegan, vegetarian, for 30 years. And I'm 54 years old. I look pretty good. I feel really good. All of these things that people are using to demonize things like soy, to me, it's not real, but it's really hard to sometimes explain that to people. Like for some reason, they think that chicken doesn't have any hormones. It wasn't grown with any chemicals, and which is false. It's not true. They think their beef is just beef. And it's really not true. Really, truly, the food industry uses all kinds of chemicals and processed things to keep food longer, bigger, stronger, all of that kind of stuff. And it would be great if we all had our own farms. And hopefully, that will happen again. We'll all have our little plot. We can grow our own food, and it'll be great. But until that time, we have to kind of choose the lesser of evils. You know what I mean? And try to look as pure as we can. And so that's really what the African Americans are really looking to get as pure as they can. But the problem is sometimes on the internet, it becomes demonizing. Just demonizing. But you have to be where you are, because if it's at the point where you want to demonize a processed plant-based and it just makes you go back to chicken, what have you done? You've not progressed. You've tricked yourself, or an influencer, someone has tricked you into believing that, or even the meat industry has a big propaganda industry going on, like in articles, like in Forbes magazine wrote about plant-based meat. It's huge propaganda against processed plant-based meat, and I think it's unwarranted, and so it always takes a lot of explaining.
Sure, and I think it's because it's so well funded and it's been that way for so long. They're protecting a commercial interest, right? The real thing they care about, first and foremost, is profit. Before environment, before public health, before anything else, profit is the priority. And anything that comes in the way of that, they're going to work damn hard to make sure it doesn't infringe on their ability to make money. And I think the more people are, and you've made such a great point. You said that traditionally, people in the African American community are less trusting of these systems. It makes sense that they would question that. I mean, the statistic that you said as well, if you don't mind reminding me, was that you said that 8% of African Americans were vegan, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Identify as plant-based, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I think even the term vegan, you probably will find less of that in the Black community because of all the politics that are involved.
Yeah.
But they more readily identify with the term plant-based. I call myself plant dominant because it's a way to explain the whole 30 years that for 30 years I've been plant dominant, not 100% vegan, not, so I usually say I'm plant dominant.
Yeah, I think that's.
But I think in the African American community, you'll hear people say they're plant-based more than vegan.
And with the plant-based community, I think is one that I found to be kind of 10 years into it now, and I found it to be, it does have its faults, of course, as any community does, but it's been super collaborative. It's been people come together from all backgrounds, from different countries. When you travel somewhere, you go to a vegan restaurant, you get talking to people. You're around people that see the world in a similar way to how you see it. How do you see that food can be, and plant-based food can be, kind of a bridge between different communities and bringing people together? Is that something that you've seen within your community?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things that I think it's like definitely through me and through the content that I put out, I always encourage my followers to try all kinds of different places where they can get plant-based food, because maybe they've never tried Thai, but you're
Yeah.
going to get great Thai food. Lebanese. When I went to Paris, I got the best. Now, I eat Lebanese food here in America, but when I went to Paris, I got the best Lebanese food in the world, all
Mhm.
vegan. It was amazing. And I also encourage my followers, like if they're out in the Caribbean or anywhere traveling, to seek out the different plant-based options that are there anywhere. Even when I went to Italy, um, I did content to just let them know what word to use. Vegano, like use that word, and you will get, great vegan food. So, I just like to encourage my followers to reach out, try all different kinds of restaurants and different cultures, especially Indian food, to Vietnamese, to get plant-based options.
Yeah.
Because, it can be, the funny thing is, in an American diet, it can be frustrating to find, to always find plant-based options. But if you go and you try different cultures, you will find a lot of different options. I
You
do
said
notice that in the UK, when I went to London, there were just a lot more, and we notice this on when we see social media and things. Whenever there's something that's being introduced uh, in the plant-based world, it's always the UK.
mm,
So when I went to London, I definitely saw a lot more options at the Subway, at McDonald's that we don't have. So
yeah, UK the last few years has been a good one, but I think to your point, there's some cuisines that are just so well suited to being adapted for plant-based or just accidentally plant-based. Thai, you mentioned, Thai food, you'll find so many plant-based options, and very often you'll ask them if it's vegan or not. They'll look at you with a confused face. They don't even know what vegan is, but it has no dairy in, no fish, no eggs, no meat. Similar with Lebanese food, you've got tabbouleh, hummus, all of these like falafel, these kind of plates that are accidentally plant-based. People have been eating this way for a very long time. It's only the last 50 to 70 years that we've eaten such a meat-heavy diet, and I think it's evident to anyone that's looked into it truly the effect that's having on us, and the reason that this is just so important at this time for us to really think about being more plant dominant. And I love that the journey that you've been on I think is amazing, in that from this group, building this group, this community, which is just so many people. When you think about it, it's such a large number of people and so much impact. um to go to the cookbooks, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about how that came about, how you approached it, what message you were trying to get across, how you looked at it. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
well, it started like I guess 3 years ago. Um, we were in the group and we were approaching about 100,000 members, and people started getting really nervous about Thanksgiving and the holidays. They were new, plant-based, and they were like, I don't know what to cook, and they started asking a lot of questions. So I got this idea, and I was like, hey guys, why don't we put together a group cookbook for the holidays? And everybody was like, sure, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. You know how they do in the comments, and they're liking it. Oh yeah, we're gonna do it. And I didn't get any submissions. So
It's
I
on
said,
you.
oh my goodness, I promised these people a holiday recipe guide and no one has submitted. So I had to start putting it together myself, just based on things that I had veganized for my own families, because I'm the only vegan in my family. And
Yeah.
so when I come together, I mean, my family of origin. So when I come together with them, I veganize things and that kind of thing. So I had to put together all the things that I veganized and the different dishes. And then at the last minute, two people did come in and submit about 4 recipes. So I put that together, threw it on Amazon, and I also gave it away free in exchange for email. And that started building my email list. Plus, it gave free recipes away to the members. And so from there, I've just been answering the call, and I've gotten up to 4
Amazing.
plus classes and online classes and things like that. I just keep answering the call because they want more recipes.
Well, I think this is all any of us can do, right? I think it's about, you know, the way people are so in this buzzword at the moment about community, building community. And when we approach that with through the lens of I want to build a community so I can benefit, inherently it never really happens, because there's a feeling of inauthenticity. When you set out to build a community from a place of service, I want to help these people. I know a little bit about this, and I know that people coming together can learn about this. I want to help, and the way you put it is amazing. Answer the call. You're just following what people want, and therefore the value you're giving is directly in line with what people want, and it just makes so much sense. And I think people ask me a lot, like I want a vegan business. I really want to start. I don't. My job doesn't speak to me. I'm not passionate about it. I want to do something in plant based. And I say to people, like, business is just solving problems. All it is solving. It's a creative way of solving a problem. So think about the problems that you encounter on a day-to-day life as someone that's vegan or plant based. Ask other people what problems they have, and then look at the skill sets and the experience that you have that could make you the person to solve those problems. And you will come across something. There's a huge amount of problems to be solved. There's different niche communities that you can speak to and that you can get on board with. And I think it's such a great example of that in the way that you've built the community that you have and the cookbooks as well. So I just wanted to honor that, because I think it's a really great thing that you've done.
It is true. It really is about, and I did a video about this on my personal page. Like, if you want to be great, it's about service. Just remember what you're there to do, and not all the ego stuff. Don't get caught up with who's doing what. Just remember the task at hand. Remember your original idea of how you wanted to serve, and just keep walking. And when you get misaligned with other things, remember what you're there to do.
Yeah, just come back to it. What's next then? What have you coming up? Is there anything you're excited about? Is there anything you're working on currently that's in the pipeline?
I'm taking a group to Thailand. We're doing that in November. Wow. We still have a few spaces left on that. I'm about to put out a series for electric pressure cooker and air frying cooking, because another call that people have is they want to get dinner on the table fast, under 30 minutes, and they want it to be convenient. So I'm putting out a series to help people who are not, big drawn out cooks. They want to get things fast, get it done. So I'm excited about that, because that's just another, that's just another call that I'm answering. And I'm about to move. Like, currently I'm in the southeast of United States, and I'm moving to the northeast, like by New York and Philadelphia, that kind of thing. So I'm just excited to be up there. The larger part of my audience is that way. So I just don't know what I'm going to get into there, but I'm really, really excited about it. So I hope to do cooking classes in person, more intimate events, things like that. And I do women's retreats, and I started doing that even before I started the community. And that's how I really found out that women who eat regular soul food would like vegan soul food, because I would always have a vegan option, and they loved it. So, yeah.
And that's always the case. It's always funny when you're in an event and you have a vegan option, and then other people are interested, and then they start wanting the option that you have. This must happen to me at least half the time that I go to stuff like that. It's super interesting. And for people that want to connect with you, that want to follow, that want to learn more about the work that you're doing, where can they do that? We'll link it in the notes, but where can they do that?
You can go to vegan.soulfoodie on Instagram. You can go to vegansoulfoodie.com on the internet. And we're also Vegan Soul Foodie on Facebook. And our group is Vegan Soul Foodie with Brooke Brimm, or you can just put in Vegan Soul Food and you'll find it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Brooke. It's been amazing chatting to you. And so much
Thank you.
Good stuff going on. I wish you all the best with the move and everything else that you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.